lot of organizations that do it, but the majority of organizations don't offer this on the road. They offer it on their tents, wherever they're situated. So people can come in and use these phones or the internet just at the tent and the location that they are in. Imagine that couple with the dog walking. They never got anywhere close to a place where FEMA or Red Cross or any of these organizations are. And those are the people that we want to help a lot, the people that aren't able to get there. I don't think there was a center anywhere near. I mean, the nearest one I think was about 2 hours away in a city called Ponce from where these people were. So they would have never been able to get to one.
Okay. Well, a question, I'm taking some of these from your frequently asked questions thing, but are you a rescue group?
We're not. That comes actually asked more often than not. I am trained in air rescue and swift water rescue, for example. So if in the way operations go is that if we know if a hurricane is going to hit, we're actually going to try to drive and be in the nearby, but without being in danger in any way, shape, or form. As soon as the hurricane happens to pass, we'll go in and we will be meeting other organizations, National Guard, et cetera, et cetera. So if they need my help on what is called air rescue, meaning that I need to rappel from a helicopter to help a victim come out of the water, come out of their house, or any kind of things like that, yes, of course we will help them. If there is a life-threatening situation and they need the help, we will. Otherwise, we won't, because we will just be getting in their way. Yeah. And even though I am trained to do this, every rescue squad, every group have their own ways of doing things. And no matter how good my training is, I need to adapt to them. So regardless, if they don't need me, I will not even try it.
Got it. Well, how did you get involved with the ham radio business?
That's a good question. I don't know if I remember. I believe I got into it after we had no communications in New York City after 9/11. And I started in a local way, just being able to get just walkie-talkies to talk and prepare if something else like that would happen, prepare my family so I can talk to them, this and that. Then other things like a blackout that wasn't here. It was probably the first thing that I did for emergency communications. We set up in a schoolyard, and people were able to use my ham radio to communicate with other ham radio operators and have them call their families. But that was pretty much playtime compared to the way that we use it right now.
Okay.
The last time that we did, like with Maria, ham radio, people think of it like, oh, you're just talking on a microphone. No, I was actually sending emails back and forth via ham radio. Yeah. To Puerto Rico, and that's how most of the communication happened.
Aside from that first very, very emotional experience you told me about, do you have any others where you could relive and make us relive them too? Because what you're doing is really important. We need to feel what you felt and experience what you've experienced. Do you have any more experiences you can relate?
In the part of communications, just a few. Remember, we're very young as an NGO. In the part of rescue operations, yes, I can tell you many. But the one thing, like, for example, when I was still doing this via ham radio from the roof of my house, I would call people. We would get the information, call this person, this phone number, et cetera, and this person is calling them. And I would call these people, and I'm going to say 40% of them hung up the phone on me because they're like, oh, this is some sort of scam. So I had to recall them, and until I convinced them that it wasn't. And then, like always, and I emphasized on it, the tears came out. Oh my God, we can't believe this. Please tell them this, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, they make me cry along the way, many other times. And we would be able to pass information back and forth. So telling a specific story on it, it's hard at this moment, but in one of the cases that we were in Puerto Rico, we did get a phone call from somebody saying, and that's actually how the Find a Loved One idea started. We did get a phone call from somebody saying, I have my cousin, I think it was a cousin, out in a town outside of Ponce. If you happen to pass by then, would you be able to reach out to them? Jeez. And about 2 days later, we happened to be in Ponce. And I said, can I borrow a car? We couldn't travel alone. We always had to go in pairs. So somebody else decided, okay, I'll go with you. I wasn't busy in that moment. And we went and found the person. And we talk to somebody who sent us to somebody who sent us to somebody until we found the person. The person was at a shelter. And I was able to get the satellite phone and give them a call. So when I started the end-to-end NGO disaster response, that's when I say I have to do this find the loved one system, because not only the people that are inside of the disaster have the need to call outside, but I remember seeing the people in New York City with the anxiety that they had no clue what was going on with their family members inside of Puerto Rico.
Sure.
So that kind of anxiety is what I want to relieve from people.
Sure.
That specific time when I went into searching for this person in the town outside of Ponce, to me was also, I'm not going to say it was the aha moment, but it was kind of an idea. The only things that I can tell in the stories is tears. Okay, it's the biggest thing that we've seen here, and they're tears of joy, which is the best part of it.
Yeah, because they're seeing a way out. They're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Who can we contact for partnerships and other information to help you, help your organization? And how do people donate to End2End Go?
Donations, they can go to our website, end2ngo.org, and there is a button on the top that will send the person to our GoFundMe campaign. If there is larger donations, they can use the form on the website to communicate with me or somebody in the team, or they can email us at info@end2ngo.org. Primarily. Did I answer your question, or was there another?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to anything, because that's what this is for. We're going to put everything out there right on this broadcast, so that I'm going to repeat it at the end too. I want to ask you about giving information ahead of time. You can give you information, say like you talked about with the person in Ponce. They say, find this person for me if you can, and can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, we're building this thing in our website called Find a Loved One. And what will happen is that if we know there is a hurricane and we are already on our way to do response or disaster relief there, this page will pretty much become active. People will be able to go in there and see on a map where we are and perhaps the route that we have planned. And in there, they'll be able to put the information about people that they want to find over there. So let's say that you wanted to find your sister somewhere in the area that we are. You will put your information. You will have to be vetted via phone to make sure you're not some sort of a scam or some sort of spam, as it would be.
Yes.
And as soon as we know that it is you for real, in our system, via internet satellite, we'll pick it up over there. A little dot will come up in the map and say, you have somebody you need to find here. So that can come as soon as the day prior to us arriving to a place, and primarily because that map will become available. But ahead of time, further than that, is going to be really hard. We're trying to perhaps create a donation system base for the future, but is still in discussions on how that's going to work, and people would be able to give us an address or names of people in specific areas. It's still very much in the works, so really don't want to give much information out because I don't know it myself.
Right. I like the title of your thing, End2End Go. I guess that's from football, right? End2End Go. Is that
no? Actually, that is my ham radio call. N2 pretty much means that I am in the number 2 means that I'm the region where I am a ham radio operator. And you can have different letters N or W in front of it. And NGO is because I'm at that moment when this was made, I was helping just NGOs, not the survivors. I hadn't seen that far ahead. So this is what we call a vanity call sign, which means it's a call sign that for ham radio, or a license number, you can put it that way, that we create. And so I created that N2 because of the region where I am, and NGO because I was helping NGOs.
Oh, it's funny because maybe I'm too sports minded, because I was just thinking, I'm not a football player, but I just thought end to end, like EN, like a touchdown, go. And then I was just thinking, I thought that's where it came from. I thought you had it like that. Okay. Let me ask you this. uh, do you? No, I'm sorry. I lost my place. I was going to ask you something else. Um, Can you tell us more about any other things you're going to be doing? Were you ever in the California fires there? Would you go that far, or is it just basically the Caribbean?
No, we would go anywhere in the United States where we're needed, but there has to be a need for communications. And during the fires, there were no needs for that. People were able to travel 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes outside of the area and be able to make a phone call. So, and the people who are inside of a fire are required. There is no other choice for them to leave the area. So they would get to places where there are communications. Now, that brings me to kind of blend two questions that you asked before, like kind of a story about what we had done and how the way that we respond. Early in the time in Puerto Rico, there were a lot of landslides everywhere, so ambulances couldn't get to a place. A doctor friend of mine needed to do a rescue operation from a helicopter, and he knew that I could rappel from a helicopter. And said, Carlos, can you give us a hand in here? I'm like, remember, I'm not a medical professional, so I can give you a hand maybe in logistics. And no, we need you for communications because many times we lose communications. So we travel in the helicopter. We had to go about an hour. We see that there is no way to land. There are some trees, I mean, bare, but standing, and many of them on the ground. So we rappel about 30 feet down to the ground. And the doctor goes in. There were already paramedics there that had hiked to the place, but they couldn't get the patient out because of the mudslides and landslides. So my job in there is to get the rescue basket ready and everything ready to bring the patient back up. But from the helicopter, they also send down my communications kit, which is usually just a walkie-talkie, a very small long distance, or what we call an HF radio. And I already had my satellite phone with me. To make a long story short, with the part of communications that we needed there was the helicopter had to go and land someplace because we were taking a long time to get the patient ready. The part that I remember the most is actually walking into the house because Paul, this doctor that I'm telling you about, calls me in to help him, and doing an abrupt stop because the smell was so horrible that it was somebody who was burned from about 50% of their body. So we get him ready. Because of all these delays, the helicopter had to land. When we were ready, we used the radio. The helicopter, we can't reach him. We used the other ham radio. We can't reach anybody who can contact him. And it was semi-cloudy. All of a sudden, the sky opened up, and it was blue, and we were able to use a satellite phone to be able to communicate with him to come back to us. So no matter what kind of operation you're doing on the ground, whether it's a medical, whether it's a rescue, communications are a need. And even though we do not offer these to the other NGOs, it's very likely that in the future we will, because a lot of these things are needed. Now, you do need to be certified to rappel from a helicopter or from a boat, et cetera, et cetera.
Carlos, I'm sorry, we're at the end of the line here. I'm going to have to cut you off right here, but I want to thank you very much. I'd like to thank Carlos CHIOSSONE for being on our program today. He is the founder of End2End Go, n2ngo.org, a nonprofit that exists to connect families affected by natural disasters with their loved ones. Look them up. They need your support. Remember, this is Curmudgeonly Yours with host Richard Bont on Society Bites Radio. You can also hear Curmudgeonly Yours on Spotify, Sound Echo, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other platforms, including our very own Society Bites Radio.com. Click on Cultural Presenters, Global Culture, then on Curmudgeonly Yours, or on richardbont.com. Click on Podcasts. Thank you very much, Carlos CHIOSSONE, for being on today.
Thank you, Richard, for having me.
So I'd like to thank our guests for being on Curmudgeonly Yours today. And please, if you like what you heard, send me an email to richard@richardbont.com. And if you didn't, please keep your comments to yourself. Remember, this is Richard Bont and Curmudgeonly Yours on Society Bites Radio, where everything is what it seems, nothing is what it seems, and what is not said is often of most interest.